to us. Governor, welcome to Exeter. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, and Mark said he was going to turn it over to someone who really knows what he was talking about. I was looking around to see who's that going to be. And then he pointed to me. So let me act like I know really what I'm talking about. First of all, thanks so much for having us here. It's an honor and privilege to be in Exeter today. And I was told that, that the way that the whole gimmick goes today is this. That I can speak for as long as I want, but when you get tired of me, a window opens and you throw me out into that raging water out there, and I'll never be heard from again. So I'm going to be very mindful. When I see the window start to open, I'm finished. Thank you very much, because I know it's a busy time, and all of you are probably on your way to or from someplace. I'm going to be very mindful of that as best as I can, and I will try to live by the little beatitude that Jesus would have added in the New Testament had he been a politician. Blessed are the brief, for they shall be invited again. Let me do my best to remember that. Honored to get a chance just to personally visit with you beforehand. Over the past several months, I've become increasingly convinced that our country, and frankly our party, is in a real time of crisis and of turmoil. And in part it's because there seems to be this confusion about who we are and where we need to be going. But for some of us, there's not a confusion as to why we're Republicans. We became Republicans out of conviction. I didn't grow up a Republican. I grew up in a state, in a community, in a town. Some of you have heard of it, Hope, Arkansas. Some of you saying, how could we ever believe we'd elect another president from Hope, Arkansas? So my campaign theme is, give us one more chance. But frankly, growing up in that little town, which I really did grow up in, there were only 7 or 8 Republicans in the whole town. And they all moved from somewhere. They didn't grow up there. They came in. One of them was my first boss at the radio station in the little town called Hope. And I went to work for him when I was 14 years old, and he made a big impact on me. And I first understood what being a Republican really meant. And it meant that we put a focus on individual responsibility. It meant that we valued our liberty. That was something that was so precious to us. We understood that patriotism was an obligation of American citizens. It also was a time when I learned that community service was not an option for someone who had been given much. And I really had been given so many opportunities and blessings as a kid. I didn't grow up a child of privilege. I grew up literally within about 50 yards of a railroad track. And my father didn't have a seat on the stock exchange. He had a seat on a fire truck. And on his days off, he worked as a mechanic rebuilding generators on cars. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. The only soap we ever had in our houses when I was a kid was lava soap. Does anybody know what that is? You know, I was in college before I understood that soap wasn't supposed to hurt when you used it. But I'm not telling you that background to make you feel like I had a terrible background. I had a wonderful childhood because I grew up in a home where 2 parents didn't have hardly 2 nickels to rub together. But I knew that I was in a home where they loved us and would make sacrifices. And my parents did. And the reason they made sacrifices for my sister and for me was because they wanted a better life for us than they knew they'd ever have for themselves. My father never graduated from high school, nor did his father or the father above him or the one. In fact, no one upstream from me as a male had ever graduated high school in my family. They wanted me to have the chance to reach the next rung on the ladder they'd never reached. And they did everything they could to make it so that I could get on their shoulders and get there. So I went on to college and worked my way through and took 40 hours of worked hours every week that I could at the local radio station, and as many class hours as I could cram in, and got to in 2 years and 3 months, and completed my degree. I tell people it wasn't because I was smart, it was because I was poor and I needed to get through in a hurry. Yeah. But that helped to shape me, and it helped me also to realize that in this country, anybody can do anything if they really, really want to. The fact that I'm standing here today as a candidate for the presidency of the United States is a great testament, not to me, it's a great testament to this country. It's a great testament to the kind of place we live, and I want it for every kid growing up in America. Not every kid can be president, but I want every kid to know that he could be. Not every kid's necessarily going to own his own company, but I want every kid to think that he could. Not every kid's necessarily going to go to college and get a degree in physics and perhaps make some startling scientific discovery. But I don't want a kid who could do it to not have the opportunity because our school systems don't give him the chance. And the way that happens is that we remember that the greatness of our nation is never never been because of some government program. The greatness of our nation has always been because we gave the next generation the opportunity to excel beyond what we were able to do. We've got some real problems facing this country. We have borders that our government has simply failed us in not securing. And as a result, we have people who are angry and frustrated. And the fact is, it's not that we want to deny people the chance to come and experience what we've experienced. I say every night I get on my knees and thank God I'm in a country people are trying to break in, rather than living in a country people are trying to break out of. That's something we can all be grateful for. But we need to know who's coming. We need to know they don't have criminal backgrounds and communicable diseases. And when I go to the airport in Little Rock and have to go through all the layers of security, that's fair. But somebody coming from another country ought to also have to show us that they have authentic documentation, just as I do to get on an airplane. And then we have a system on this side so that there is an orderly process to take care of the people that we really want and need to be here to help in our own economy. Our healthcare system is broken. And it's broken largely because it's a healthcare system rather than a health system. And it's really not a healthcare system, it's a disease care system. And it's upside down because the focus has been so much so on treating disease that we forget that it would be a lot less expensive if we put a focus on preventing it. We spend so much more of our GDP than any other nation on earth, nearly 17% on healthcare. If we were spending 11%, and that would still be more than anybody on the planet, just that difference would be $700 billion a year in America of savings. When people say we need to raise taxes, no we don't. We need to live a healthier life. We need to have healthier economies so that what we really do is we're not spending money just to treat the chronic diseases that currently eat up 80% of all healthcare expenditures. We need to also make sure that we have a country where we don't so make it difficult in small business that the greatness of America's economy is stifled. I've always said that if you take excessive taxation, excessive regulation, excessive litigation, the result is excessive job migration to other places where people aren't subjected to those things that are real job killers and economic destroyers. Instead, we need the kind of free market system where people with an idea and an innovation can sit at their kitchen table and sketch it out and result in the creation of a business. And that's what's made America a great, strong country. It's not its government, but it's its private sector. There's so many ways in which our country faces challenges. It's what I call the difference between horizontal and vertical leadership.